Thank you, Senda. Beautiful. Did you like the story? Yeah, it's Mother's Day. Interesting for me this time. I've always loved being a mother, and to now be a grandmother is over the top. People kept telling me, "Yeah, you're going to really enjoy that." But it's more than that. It's a continuation of a love that the divine feels for each one of us, and we get to tap into that. So the talk I was going to be doing last week, and instead spent the time with my daughter having her son, was about homecoming. So I value Reverend Mary being willing to kind of switch things around. So what we're doing is speaking to the idea of Tara Brach's work and true refuge. Sacred soul is our overlying theme for 2019. The organization is using also some very beautiful work and messaging, and I find that when I look at what they're talking about, and they have outlines for recommendation for what we bring to share with you, it's the same, except from a global perspective. And then we're doing something here in our center on an individual level. And so it all works, and it's all a very beautiful message. And homecoming, what does that mean to you? And let me invite you into the space of homecoming to the self, to that sacred self that Wayne Dyer so beautifully outlined for us in the first few months of this year. Now we start to unravel it even deeper, to soul search where we are. Why are we even on a journey of the soul? Why are we doing a spiritual practice? Why? Why are you here? What do you need? And often we don't know what that need is until we are up against some crisis, something that unsettles us from the norm. And recently I've been going through my own challenge of something, and I realized it rocked everything that I was familiar with. It was out of my control, and I didn't like that. I wanted everything to be happy, and I could not change what was coming my way. And so I was struggling in that, and I realized, I am in the storm. And the overall talk, the book that they're using in the organization this month is a book by Dr. Reverend Gary Simmons, and it's The Eye of the Storm. And I thought, I am in the storm part. And yet, as we know about the eye of the storm, in the center, there is a stillness, right? There's an unmovable source. And that's what's within us. And when we go through our difficult times, the mind starts to pick us up and pull us, whip us like a hurricane out of the center, and there we are, whipped around with our emotions and our thoughts and our mind, and yet we can feel ourselves blindly reaching, I know the truth, crying, wailing, I know the truth. And so we reach out to our community, to our friends, and we say, show me the way again. I'm lost. The storm has got my soul. No, nothing ever gets the soul. But the ego part of me was moving with the energy of the storm that I was allowing to be even greater than it needed to be. And Emma Curtis Hopkins, she says this beautiful quote, I tell you that between you and your good, which belongs to you, and which you ought to have, is the idea of the absence of good. That's a huge thought to contemplate, because good, God, love, is ever present. It's always present. So what's in the way, what's in between that, is just your idea that it's not there. Ken Gordon, Dr. Ken Gordon, our spiritual director of the organization, says, ask yourself why something can't happen. Just ask yourself that. So as I tell you these words, share part of my story with you, ask yourself, what's my story? How does this fit for me? Maybe I'm in a very good place right now, but there are times when the storm has me. He says, ask yourself why something can't happen, and you will discover the mental equivalent of what is blocking you. I think that's brilliant. Just those words. I feel like that would be the end of all years of counseling, because you realize the mental equivalent, the idea, it's done unto us as we believe, very basic idea of this philosophy that Ernest Holmes has brought to us. So if we're creating something, we've created a mental idea, and therefore it becomes so. So the mental equivalent, whatever we have, when we can discover that, that's what's blocking us. And we can do something about it. That's from The Eye of the Storm. This is some words, some reflections of Gary Simmons. Conflict brings us to the edge of our resourcefulness. That is why the idea of embracing conflict seems so unnatural and frightening. One of the most uncomfortable feelings is not knowing what to do or how to be in a situation that looks and feels scary. Conflict is conflict because we don't know how to relate to a perceived threat in a way that enables us to feel safe and okay. When this happens, the well of our resourcefulness seems to run dry. We don't have the familiar tools that bring us comfort. We're thrown into an area that we grapple with for a while, and it's good. It is, as Ram Dass says, grist for the mill. It allows us to grow, to open to grow, and to love even this, to love even bigger, and to let go. He also shares conflict does not come to us, it comes from us. It arises from within as an effect of two competing intentions: a compelling desire to feel safe, okay, and valued, and the drive to fulfill the soul's purpose. So, homecoming, then, is coming back and finding refuge in the self. And it is why we invite you to consider, what is my spiritual practice? What is my way? How am I walking? How am I thinking? How am I contemplating? How am I praying? Am I praying for the right and perfect good to unfold for me, as me, through me? So I wanted to share a story about true tranquility. That is one of the aspects, you know, when you have found your true self, you've come home to that part of your deep knowing. So here's a story from ancient China. The emperor was in his study looking over volumes of diplomatic documents, and he found it hard to concentrate. So he summoned one of his most trusted ministers. When the minister arrived, he saw that the emperor was pacing back and forth and looking quite irritable. And the emperor said to him, I want to focus on the affairs of the state, but my mind is unsettled and agitated. When I feel like this, I need something I can look at to help me regain tranquility. Go find the best artist in the land and have him create a painting that has the power to calm me down. I want the theme of the painting to be true tranquility, as you command, Your Majesty. A few days later, the minister reported that there were 3 artists widely considered to be the best in China, equally talented, so he brought all of them to the palace. Once they understood what the emperor wanted, they began painting. When the work was done, the emperor went into the studio with the minister to see for himself, and the first painting they looked at depicted a placid lake surrounded by mountains. Beautiful, absolutely a beautiful scene. The surface of the lake was perfectly still and conveyed that peaceful feeling. The emperor smiled. It's beautiful. The second painting showed a snowscape. It evoked the silence after a snowfall, a deep silence that went beyond the mere lack of noise because the snowbanks absorbed all sound. Both the minister and the emperor nodded their approval. "Very insightful," said the emperor. Then they looked at the third painting, which featured a waterfall. "Oh, I'm sorry, Your Majesty," the minister said. "It looks like this artist did not understand my instructions to paint a scene of serenity. Let me discard this painting, and we shall choose from the first two." He reached for the painting, but the emperor stopped him. "No, wait!" He stared at it for a moment longer, and then he said, "This is the painting for me." "But what, Your Majesty, how can this waterfall compare to the other two in representing tranquility? I do not understand." "The waterfall is not the most important thing in this painting," the emperor said. "Look again." The minister took a look at the painting more carefully this time, and he saw that there was a tree next to the waterfall, and one of the branches of the tree held a nest, and a bird was sleeping inside the nest. "See how that bird is able to relax and rest even though the deafening torrent is so close to it," the emperor pointed out. "It has such a profound quietness within the external conditions have no power to irritate it or to disturb it. Now that's the essence of true tranquility." So we are seeking when we are finding ourselves in a state of flux. And when that storm arises and things seem out of our control, Divine Spirit, we go into our prayer, and then we recognize with great certainty that in the eye of the storm, in the very center of all that there is this divine tranquility, this divine calmness, this divine assuredness that forever is holding us. No matter what else is happening, we are held. Here is where we do our spiritual work, and here is where we do our practice. This is where we connect to Spirit, to its limitless power, right there in that deep stillness. Because you could see from the idea of the placid lake, what is the undercurrent? What's going on underneath the surface? And then in the idea of the snowscape, we recognize the impermanence of that storm, or the storm will come again. And so a snowscape is only temporary. Whereas the rushing water of the waterfall and this idea of the nestled sweet bird, able to find peace in all situations, has something that we can grasp and use as a tool for our comfort. So in the center of this hurricane, the center point, a space where there's a perfect equilibrium. At the eye there is a peace, a calm, a clarity, and a stillness. The storm of the conflict also possesses this center. So this center is our idea of our wholeness, our idea of our spiritual essence, the idea this is where our truth is. The great mother of Sri Aurobindo, his wife, she was known as the great mother, she said, whenever things are difficult, we must remain quiet and silent. Now think about that as when your mom got mad at you. Oh, she's quiet. She's silent. What's going on inside the mother? And so my kids knew that. Uh-oh. They would be disruptive, and then I would go into a quiet. I don't know if I was really that skillful to know that I was just being really holy in that quietness, or just ready to really lose it. But I stayed in that silence, so to do no harm. But just in that, pulling away and being quiet, they became little angels again, just like that. So that idea of remaining quiet and silent. 3 ideas that Tara brings to us in this state. This is the homecoming state. There is that idea of tranquility. Last Sunday, when we were heading home, and I was telling Charlie, I said, I feel great peace. I haven't felt this great peace in weeks. I feel so deeply settled. Mary did the talk. Awesome. The health fair, which I was really excited about, is over and successful. This baby was born and is healthy and all is well. I feel peaceful. My world feels like it's back in order, and I can be the champion, and I feel my power returning because I'm in the center of who I am meant to be. And then the storm pricks at you a little bit more, but then you whimper, but then you're going, no, I remember who I am. I remember when things are difficult. Now is the time to be quiet and silent. So this tranquility, this state of beingness, she also refers to it, because she's a Buddhist, as the Buddha nature, but it is the Christ nature. It is the nature of the divine. It is what Ernest Holmes speaks about as that which is, and we can call it in the Hindu the Atman. We can call it from all the different languaging, all the different faith paths. They have their name for that deep truth, for that nature of the spirit within each one of us, this divine self. So that is one of the other ingredients, and faith and trust of this vast power within. Ernest Holmes says this, and I think it's so brilliant. Think about this short sentence: we must look at a thing long enough until it no longer has power over us. Now, I know that that is a very popular statement for those brave spiritual warriors in the AA movement. It works for all of us to really take that to heart, to realize what a simple statement it is. It's not that we're not letting go of something soon enough. We haven't looked at it long enough to imprint upon our heart and to get back into the center of ourself where we are not disturbed by the storms. We need to look at it long enough so that we are empowered by what is going on and not disempowered. So I just love that statement. We must look at a thing long enough until it has no power over us. Oftentimes, you know that you're in a space of this when you're asking yourself, I just wish everybody would do things my way. That's the first roadblock to your understanding anyone else's choices. This is where your belief statements start to get in the way. Because then you start, second guessing yourself. I'm not okay. I'm not measuring up. I'm a disappointment. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I blah, blah, blah. All represent this separation from the good. That same good that Emma Curtis Hopkins points to. This great divine good. We all have access to that good. So the Science and Mind text is reminding us that anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, anything, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. And as the life as one can conceive will become a part of this experience. So we allow the greater good to unfold. We allow ourselves to soften to what is. And here's where I love what this whole idea of homecoming is, because the secret ingredient, and it works almost every time, and you're going to feel stubborn as I did when I first read it. Father Thomas Keating pointed this out, and Tara Brach used it as her wisdom to the people that were struggling with what was going on in their situation. I consent. You sit with whatever it is. I consent. Think about whatever has troubled you. Just take a moment. Let it swim through your heart. Don't anchor onto it. Don't swim with it, but just let you be in the center, your deep, true center, the soul. Remember any moment of suffering, and then quietly, I consent. It just is what it is. And when you can consent to whatever is going on, you have your power back. You have your power back when you're allowing yourself to have a relationship now. Instead of fighting what's going on, you're back in the center. You're back being the one not judging, but just sitting in your seat of consciousness, not judging your world, not judging your relationship with it, I consent. Doesn't make whatever's going on right or wrong. It doesn't mean in this world of crazy politics it's right or wrong, but I consent, I soften, and I sit in the seat of love itself. We're searching for that one thing to make us whole. That's why we delve into the idea of homecoming. Now I find it by more deeply diving into all of my library of beautiful spiritual wisdom. I dive in deeper to my yogic practice. I dive deeper into my prayer work. I dive deeper into my silence. I dive deeper into my conversations with my mentors who lead my heart back home. I call up Reverend Mary. I call up my practitioners. I call upon them and I reach out and they hold me and they remind me who I am, who we are. And I am strong again. I called Dr. James. I said, tell me, you know me from way back, tell me, what must I see? And of course what he told me was, don't forget the 4 agreements. I said, dang you, that's what I told other people. Don't be using what I'm saying to other people back on me. Wonderful man. So here you are with whatever comes up for you. A belief, a feeling, an experience. Just consent. And know that in the eye of the storm holds that seed of perfection. That divine spark, that which brought you here. The God in you is what you are, is what you truly are, and nothing less. We are all linked to the eternal, to the great mother, to the great Father. We're all linked. And then we have these individualized experiences to remind us, don't get too comfortable, don't get too familiar with what is, because it's all impermanent, and you must remember that this is a journey. This is a journey of your soul. To be the mystic, to be the one who moves with acceptance of a truth and a love that is beyond all things. So as we begin to go through our next week and the weeks that follow, and we come up against some of these moments with ourselves, and we say, oh, here is one. I consent to what is. And I find who I am. I find myself resting as the bird in the nest, as the waterfall flows, and I know who I am. Ernest Holmes is known for this beautiful passage, there is one life, there is one life. This is the life you're living right now, this is one life. That life is all God. That life is my life, that life is your life, that life is incarnated in us. Life, just the word life, capital L, life, breath. I was so anxious for little Corey to take that first breath because there was such a struggle in that birthing process. And I said, come to life, take that first breath. Be with us, choose to be here. And then there's that breath, that cry, that life birthed. And we all went through it, every single one of you. And we honor the mother that carried us forward, carried us into this life. We honor every mother. We honor the divine mother, we honor the birth mother, we honor the mother that never was able to carry a child, but chose to take the child and raise a child of another. We honor the woman that longed to have a child, but never did in this lifetime, not for her, but became the mother to many. We honor all of that. I lost my mom this year. This Mother's Day was hard for me. I've got a baby. I lost my mother. And then there I am. There we all are. It's a story. Birth and death, impermanence, truth, love, storms, homecoming. Homecoming. So I invite you as we go into a brief practice that allows you to feel that sense of coming to self. You're just putting your hands over your heart. Feel all of everything that you are in the center of your being is the heart space, is the space of your truth. And as we hold our hands over our heart and remembering the many lessons, challenges, moments where we felt we were so far, far away from good, from love, we were confused. We feel the beating of the heart, and as we feel the beating of our own heart, we recognize it is a journey home. Kuan Yin, the ideal goddess of compassion, calling us into a space of just simply being in the heart, in the truth. Feel the compassion. Feel the longing of the divine to bring you home and to hold you in stillness and in silence as you're born again into your divine nature. Ernest Holmes, I know there is a presence that came with me when I entered this life, and I know that this same presence will go with me when I leave this physical form, for it is the presence of the eternal life, the life that cannot die. And because God cannot fail, and because the divine presence within me is God as my real self, I know that there is a power flowing through my word of faith that makes the way straight before me. I now have no fear of the past, the present, or the future, and today I am living in the knowledge that God is over all, through all. I feel this presence, this perfection, this love, this goodness, making my life whole and complete. That loving, divine grace. Yes, it is breathing me. It is breathing you. Welcome home. And so it is. Thank you.